All right, and we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, it is such an honor to be able to sit down and call this gentleman before us right now. Not only my friend and yeah, a mentor, but we'll get into all of that. Kenny Abbott, aka the Rayman, CVN Cyclovision Network. I know you guys, if you haven't heard of him, I know many of you out there know who he is. If not, this is Kenny, bro. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate making some space on a Sunday afternoon. And yeah, man, I'm super stoked. I'm glad we were able to connect.
Oh yeah, me too, 100%. We were having a little issue right here on Facebook, real quick, but hang on, I'm getting ready to sort this issue out right now. I don't know why, but I've been having issues. All right, and we are live on Facebook right now, so let's go. Um, so me and you got a lot to talk about, man. Obviously, I want to talk about your humble beginnings and all that, but we'll save that for another podcast. You know, as we talked about before we went live, we want to talk about the whole announcing thing. And my question to you is, you know, you've been doing it a long time. Where did your journey begin with the whole announcing thing? And it is different. You know, that's what I keep telling people. It's different than doing a podcast. It's not work. It's love, and it's so much fun to do, but it's also work and different too at the same time, I'll say. But
Yeah,
how'd
man.
you
I
do it?
Yeah, I think about it as live radio, right? I mean, we're watching all these things happen, and I think about it just the same as if it's a live baseball game, live football game, basketball, whatever it is. We're watching an event live, and we have the opportunity to interview the players and everybody that's on the ground, and managers and vendors and the whole thing. So I think of the whole thing as a 12-hour radio show. So 7 in the morning when they let us turn the microphones on, it's the way I look at it, it's Rain Man Radio, right? And so it just starts off that way. And 7 in the morning, we're telling people, hey, registration tech inspections open, right? Here's what's going on for the day. First track sessions coming up at this time, but first we got the riders meeting, right? So those are the simple things that happen first thing in the morning. But yeah, that's kind of how I think. And then we get into practice and qualifying and racing and lunch and all the things that come along with that. Like, I personally, I don't stop talking until that last checkered flag flies, at whatever racetrack we're in, whatever class it is. And so I think about that whole day as a radio show, and there shouldn't be dead air unless you're telling people that there's dead air, like at Daytona. Hey, we're going to take a break for a few minutes. We're going to, get resettled and transition from qualifying to racing. We're going to get our grid sheets dialed in, ready to go. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stick around, right? So, but yeah, for me, that started back in the 90s when I was an injured racer. And funny enough, even that started at Daytona. So Daytona's played such a pivotal role in my life for so long. It's kind of silly, but my friends and I were in a 3-hour endurance race, which was used to be part of the AMA Pro Superbike program. It was the AMA CCS 3-hour endurance. Michael Barnes started in the same place. Me and several other riders, Team America and all these other race teams that you see. There are a lot of crew chiefs and mechanics in the paddock today that used to be part of that 3-hour endurance program. And so anyway, I was on a bike that wasn't set up right. It was the team bike, and I got on it, and I didn't like the setup of it, but I was trying to go fast anyway, and I got high sided in the left hand dogleg turn 4. So one of the fastest corners on the track. I mean, you're fourth gear and 100 and whatever, and I got high sided all the way down into turn 5, and that put me in a cast. I sprained my ankle, and so I was in a cast for a while. And because I was in a cast, I couldn't race. Now I've been in a cast from my hands or my wrist or something, and I've raced, but you just couldn't do that and tweak the ankle the way that you needed to race. So I was in a cast for a while, and we were at Roebling Road, and it was a super rainy, nasty day in beautiful Pooler, Georgia. And the one and only Bob Applegate, who was the CCS announcer at the time, he was all over the East Coast. He was doing AMA Pro Racing with Richard Chambers and other people. He was in the booth talking, and he said, hey, and he paged me to go upstairs, like I did something wrong. I was like, oh man, like, what are they calling me for? I'm not even racing. Why are they calling me? So I go up in the tower, and Bob may remember this differently. This is just how I remember it. But pouring down rain, Rolling Road Raceway, I go up and we're just sitting in the tower killing time. And he's talking to me about, lines and riders and whatever. And at some point later in the day, he's like, "Man, you're a natural. This is all you." And I was like, "No way, dude. This is not me at all." Like, you know, but it was just him and I having a conversation, right? Just like you and your guests having a conversation, just like being on pit road with an electric stick, having a conversation. And so that he kept pursuing me with that. And he was like, "Yeah, man, look, I'm overbooked. I can't do the mid-Atlantic races. You need to just do those." And I was like, "Dude, wrong guy. Like, that is not me." And at the time, not only was I 100 pounds lighter, but super shy, introverted. I listened a lot. That's how I became a fast racer, in my opinion. I listened to people. I asked questions and would listen to their explanations about center of gravity and suspension setup and tires and specific corners and how to get through that corner fast and whatever else, right? And so I just wasn't that outgoing person that was going to start conversations with people. That just wasn't me. It wasn't my personality whatsoever. And so Bob convinced me that, look, you're laid up anyway, you can't race, you may as well go to the racetrack and make a paycheck, because you're not gonna, like, I'm not gonna make, because I mean, at the time, like, I could make money with contingency, I could make money with purses and stuff like that. And now, I'm going to the racetrack, hanging out, and I'm not making any money, with the exception of my friends paying for hotels for me to help them, with their race program. So he's like, "Look, just, try it one time. Go to Summit Point Raceway one time, and before then, I'll train you. Come work with me at Road Atlanta during the AMA Pro Race. Come work with me at whatever racetrack, and I'll train you on how to do it." And I was like, "Look, like, I'll come down and hang out, but I'm not your announcer. That's just not me, right?" So we do a race at Road Atlanta, and he was convinced, this is your calling. This is what you need to be doing. And I was like, "You're crazy. This is not me." And and then I think we may have done a Summit Point race together, just so he could kind of show me everything that's going on with that track and the setup and everything. And then he turned it over to me, and I just remember the first time at Summit Point Raceway. It's start of summer. It's in a third story of the starting build of the register scoring building, and it's all glass all the way around, and a little tiny air conditioner. It was so hot in there. It was like a hot box. And and then and it had a microphone that was like a maybe a 6 foot microphone tied to the wall, so you couldn't even move around. You were stuck in this furnace, talking about racing all day. And to do anything, you would go up and down the stairs. So to get grid sheets, you had to go up and down the stairs. And it was so far away from, like, it was right on the finish line, but it was so far away from pit out or pit in or the paddock or anything. Like, you couldn't really get there. And I was like, "This is horrible. What are we doing here?" And but I just kept telling myself, I'm just sitting in a room talking to my friends about racing. And I'd go through the grid sheet, right? Hey, here's number whatever. And, here's, the number 511, Tim Beamister from, whatever, Pennsylvania. And would just go through the grid sheet. And for me, I felt like everybody paid their entry fee and they deserve to hear their name called on the radio at least one time. And if going through the grid sheet was that one time, then so be it, right? If you earned the opportunity by doing well in races, that like, we call your name, because you're in top 3, top 5, whatever. And that's one of the reasons why, you probably noticed at Daytona, I tried to go through the whole field at least a couple times during the race, so that friends and family and everybody hear their name, right? And we have a guy here in the Midwest region. His name is Michael Kachalka, and it's not the easiest name in the world, but he had told me ahead of time how to pronounce his name. And so I when I read it, his parents freaked out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that's our name." And it's just cool because they got to hear their son's name on the radio at a racetrack, and it was actually pronounced properly, right? So,
Love it.
like, those are the small wins that we get in our life, right? And but anyway, Bob Applegate kind of saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he really pushed me to do it. He trained me how to do it, and then from there, it sort of allowed him opportunities. He was one of the paddock announcers at Daytona, which in the old garage configuration, in the 80s and 90s, it was this little tiny, literally 10 by 10 room with a couch and a table and a microphone in the Dunlop garage. So you actually had to go into the Dunlop garage and then into this little room to find the paddock announcer. And that person's job was to call everybody to the grid. It was to, if you need parts for your master cylinder, right? It's like dumb stuff like that. Telling people to get out of the garage at 7 o'clock. Like that was the paddock announcer's job, which you've been introduced to those now. But that was one of Bob's jobs at Daytona, and he was being asked to step up and be part of the announcing team at Daytona with Pat Gonzalez and Richard Chambers and everybody else. But he couldn't do that unless he found a replacement for the paddock announcement. So I actually started doing that in the 90s as well. So I'm sitting in the Dunlop tire garage with all the Dunlop, big wigs from around the world, and I'm meeting all these teams and riders and everybody that, are coming in there and need stuff. And it was funny because that was sort of the start of all these different things. And then one time, Chris, this guy Chris Carter, who used to do a radio show down there, he was sick one time, and I got someone to fill in for me so I could fill in for him. And that was my first experience at Daytona announcing. And it was just crazy that that's kind of how it started. And Bob would take me to AMA Pro races with him, and then Richard Chambers would take me to AMA Pro races with him. And so I was sort of the second, third wheel at a lot of these, AMA Superbike race championships with a microphone in my hand, and I was either wandering up and down pit road, or I was the guy sort of up in the towers keeping the show going while they were bouncing around on pit road. And so I mean, within like 2-3 years, it was ridiculous. I just had so many opportunities to do that stuff. And then I got hired by Dunlop, and I went to work full time for Dunlop. And from Dunlop, I was hired to do Formula USA. And when I was in Formula USA, that's when the Michael Jordan Motorsports thing started. But all along the way, I kept being asked to do these random things, either on the radio, as a commentator at a racetrack, or whatever. So I just sort of kept exercising that muscle. And then a whole bunch of things happened, and the bottom fell out of the industry for a while, and we got a chance to do a whole bunch of other cool fun stuff. But like the craftsman experience, where when Facebook Live first started, was first released, Facebook Live was trying to partner with a lot of big companies like Craftsman Tools. And a friend of a friend knew that I kind of had that skill set, and they said, "Oh, Kenny's really involved in motorcycling, and you should have Kenny come in and do some motorcycle shows." And so we sat down and talked through what that production would look like, and who you'd have on the show and everything else. And I submitted scripts and production notes and the whole scenario, and they were like, "Yeah, great, but we only want to do 30-minute shows." I was like, "There's absolutely no way I can do this in 30 minutes. Like, I need at least an hour." And they're like, "Well, we just don't do that." I was like, "Okay, well, what else you got going on? Like, let's just do it." And so they said, "Okay, well, we'll set it up for 30 minutes. And if we have a lot of good fan engagement, Facebook Live fan engagement, just like we see now with podcasts and everything else, if we see the fan engagement, then we will, then maybe we'll keep it going." And I was like, "All right, fine. I'll write it so we can kind of wrap in 30, but we can keep going for an hour." And by the time we got to an hour, they were begging me to keep going again. And I think our first show was like 90 minutes, made almost 2 hours on Facebook Live. It was the most engagement they had ever had on Facebook through the Craftsman experience. It was the most fans that they had in the studio live doing it. And it's still, and the shows that we did in that series, the motorcycle series with Craftsman Tools, it's still the best thing that they ever did from Craftsman Tools perspective. It was the best thing that they ever did. It was the best show they ever did, the most engagement that they had ever had. And so it was just so much fun. But it's like silly things like that sort of kept presenting themselves. And so we just kept having fun with it.
Dude, that's absolutely amazing, and man, that's a lot to take in. What a story! And on
It
top of that,
is.
man, what such legends that took you underneath their wing to help groom your path to what you do now, right? It's
Mm.
talked to a good buddy of mine, Dustin Corner. He's like, I told him what I did. He's like, dude, that's absolutely amazing. He's like, I couldn't do that shit. That's a certain skill set that certain people have, right?
It
You
is,
either got
right?
it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun, right? It really was. It was a lot of fun, but we'll get into that. But yeah, dude, your whole journey into that is just incredible, and be able to announce all those races, especially the past legends of the sport, such as legends that are still racing on the sport to this day, right? Past
Yeah.
and present.
Yeah.
Um, and to be able to see the growth, and not only that, me, I grew up watching it, went to so many road races in my life, I can't even count, couldn't even guess.
Same.
But seeing the progression of the involvement of not only the sports, the fans, how the industry's changed, the collapse, the rebuild, um it's to still do what you do is absolutely amazing. You kill it out there, my friend. You do
It's
such
fun.
a proper mega job. It is. So
Yeah.
uh how did the whole CVN network thing come about?
Yeah. And just to go back on the points you just made, I feel like God blesses us to bless others, so I mean, I don't know if everybody goes to church, and a lot of people don't, obviously, but for me, I feel like God blesses us to bless other people, and I feel like that's been an opportunity for me. I felt like, Bob Applegate, blessed me and gave me an opportunity to do these things, and so when opportunities come up, who am I to to not provide opportunities for other people? And so I'm always that guy that's kind of pushing people out front, going, "Hey man, come on, let's just get on this train and just keep rolling, and let's see where it goes." And just always pushing people out front. And honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people in the industry, I mean, a bunch of people know me from personal interaction, but a lot of people don't, because I'm always pushing other people out front. Because I feel like they're more interesting, or they deserve it, or whatever the case may be, and I'm okay taking the back seat to it. So maybe that's just humility and whatever else, but I feel like I have this opportunity because other people gave me this opportunity. So but but yeah, Cycle Vision Network came about. Someone who's become a very, very good friend of mine. His name's Carl Bandy, and Carl Bandy the second, actually. And he approached me when I was with the Michael Jordan Motorsports, Jordan Suzuki team. And he says, "Look, I have this really cool idea where we want to have an all motorcycle digital television station." And this was really pre-digital. This was like just as everything was moving from analog to digital. So, like what we know now is Netflix and Hulu and all these other things, right? These are all digital platforms that did not exist 2000 to 2004. And 2004 to even to 2008, they were still just sort of coming online, and they were used, mostly these digital platforms were used where they would go out and they'd shoot something, right? Whether it's a movie or a show or whatever the case may be, they'd shoot it in digital format, and then they would just put it all in a database, and then they could literally pull that from that database whatever they wanted. And what they were starting to do is switch even news and shows and everything over to digital platforms, so that theoretically it's easier to distribute, right? All this digital content is just in a giant digital warehouse, right, which is now called the cloud. And you could pull it and use it for anything you want. So he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and a visionary. He said, "Hey, look, we want to just go out and get all this digital content from all over the world, including British Superbike, Italians, Spanish Superbike, Canadian, Australian, you name it. We want to go get all this digital content." We were talking to Live Nation at the time, which is Supercross, Arena Cross, Freestyle Motocross, all these other things, and we were going to bring all this content in to the Cycle Vision network, which was split into four basic categories, and then we were going to also create our own content. So it was split into to sport, which is all sport bikes, dirt bikes, cruisers, and touring. Now, touring could be split into two things as well, right? Sport touring, off-road touring. So we had, these, so it was really based on these four primary platforms, and we were just going to bring in all this content. And we, which is, you think about it, I mean, just to even build that out and have that much data sitting somewhere, super expensive, and having to build out an interactive website where you can access it and maneuver it. And it was going to have, essentially, you could, I'm going way into too much detail of it, but it's basically, if you logged on to Cyclevision Network, you have whatever's playing live, right? So just if you click to channel 5, right? Like whatever's playing live is live. But you could navigate through the different channels, and you could, watch road racing. And when you open road racing, you had 10 different countries you could watch from. And once you get into those countries, what race do you want to watch? And we legit had contract deals with Italian Superbike. You could have watched Italian Superbike events live on Cyclevision Network. They were going to upload straight to our channel. Same with British Superbike took a little bit, because British Superbike at the time was owned by the same folks that own MotoGP. But Spanish Superbike, was coming on board. French Superbike, the German Superbike Championship, Australian, New Zealand. We were even negotiating with the Japanese Superbike Championship. The Canadian folks, Colin was on board, ready to go. Brazil, Venezuela, like we were literally going to bring you road racing from around the world in the native language that show was being produced in, and um, one of us was going to do the English voiceover for it, right? So you could watch it in either version. And so it was just, I mean, it really was brilliant, and it was way before its time, but it was also really, really, really expensive, because you think about it, Italians, the Italian Superbike Championship, Spanish Superbike, like they're not going to turn that stuff over for free, right? They want it to be free because of the additional distribution, but they wanted something for it. So whether it was, $1,000 an episode or $10,000 an episode, like there was cash involved. So we started talking, and I won't name any names, but we started talking to some pretty heavy hitters in the motorcycle industry who loved the platform. In fact, loved the platform so much they were putting us in front of other people to help raise money for the platform. And at the end of the day, nobody wrote checks for it. They loved it, and they wanted it to happen, and they wanted to be a part of it. And they put us in front of other media outlets, and sadly, what ended up happening was that the person who was sort of our largest proponent, that said he was going to write the check for more than we needed because he knew it was going to cost more money, he also owned another media platform that everybody who's listening knows about. And he actually took our idea, and within a year, he had changed their whole digital platform to look a lot like this, what we had proposed for Cyclevision Network, which is just too bad that they kind of stole the idea, and then he didn't write the check to us. Even despite all the NDAs and everything that was signed, he had the money to go to court. We didn't. So that's kind of how all that works. So we just kind of settled back in. We're like, okay, after chasing it for a few years, this isn't going to work. Let's just go back to our regular jobs and keep rolling along. But we just kind of kept, the brand Cyclevision Network. I just kind of kept it going with, at least the Facebook page and Instagram and all that, just to kind of keep it alive and to have something else to sort of do. But because one of these days I just kept thinking, like we're going to do stuff. And honestly, going back to my previous point, I didn't think that Kenny Abbott was important enough for people to watch. And so Cyclevision Network was sort of the motorcycle brand of Kenny Abbott and Globetrotter and everything I was doing personally. Cyclevision Network was sort of the thing that I could keep going, invite other people to participate in and to post stuff. And we still do that. There are people that post on Cyclevision Network that or just good friends and enthusiasts, and they post stuff there, and they enjoy it. So the platform is still there for us to do something cool with. And we've done podcasts and radio shows and all this other stuff in the past, and we put it all through CVN instead of putting it through Kenny Abbott's personal stuff. So I just tried to keep the things separate. But yeah, Cyclevision Network still sort of a dream scenario to put a bunch of to bring a bunch of content into that. And one of these days, maybe when I retire, it'll be set up enough so that somebody can kind of take that ball and keep running with it.
Yeah, dude, I think it's unfortunate things unfold the way they do in life
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, but greater things come out on the other side of it. It's great platform, man, you know, and yeah, I'm excited to see CVN succeed, dude. It should. It's absolutely amazing. One question I have for you, bro. Where'd you get the nickname the Rain Man from?
That's funny. Rain Man comes from two different things. You know, it's always like you can't give yourself a nickname, right? Like if you're in a motorcycle gang or whatever, like you can't name yourself. It's up to other people to do that. So the funny thing is, uh, when we used to pack the truck when when we were leaving somewhere like Roebling Road, right? We I always had people with me, so it was either two people, three people, four people, whatever. We always had just way too much stuff and overpacked, and so everything would only fit in the van and the trailer if you packed it the right way, and um, so one of the nicknames came from me just being super OCD about packing and getting it all right, and they're like, just let the Rain Man do it. So that was part of it. And then the second was, I'm virtually undefeated in the rain, racing in the rain. So yeah, man, the very few exceptions I can count on with three fingers. One was I started 72nd on the grid at Daytona in the rain, and I came all the way up to eighth, and I could see the leaders ahead of me. So like if I had another lap, two laps, and my friends couldn't believe it. So I had the fastest lap of the race. Finished eighth, coming from the third wave. Now keep in mind at Daytona when they run three waves, they let the first wave go, and when everyone gets through turn one, then they let the second wave go, and then when they're clear through turn one, then they let the third wave go. So you're already starting with like a 20-30 second disadvantage. And so anyway, I got all the way up to eighth. It's one of my favorite trophies that I have in my office here because of just what it represents. It's like someone's like, you got you got an eighth place trophy hanging up next to all your wins and podiums and everything else. Like, yeah, that one, I earned that one. Like, this one I beat everybody by like 15 seconds, and this one was like a runaway, and this one, wasn't really fair, because and I was like, but this one, like, man, come from the third wave to get eighth, like, yeah, that's one of my favorites. And the other two were at Road Atlanta. I crashed at Road Atlanta, ahead of some really, really fast guys. I crashed twice at Road Atlanta in the rain while leading. So I was winning, but just didn't get to the checkered flag. So one I crashed coming to the white flag, and the other was the lap prior to the white flag. But man, and that was the old Road Atlanta setup when they used to have gravity cavity, and there was like they literally have like a stream running across it, and the um I took the lead and went through there, twice, and you just go full lock, because you're full speed, you're full throttle down through that gravity cavity and going through that water. And the first few laps, I was behind some people, and so they would sort of break the water up, and so I only went through there a couple times on my own, and it was just getting worse and worse. And so anyway, I went full lock, you know, hit the ground, and I slid backwards. If you know Road Atlanta at all, I slid backwards up that hill towards the bridge where the new chicane is, right? Slid backwards on my stomach going up that hill, and then Tim Beamisterfer crashed right behind me, and him and his bike, and neither one of which are small or lightweight, right? They're both following me up that hill, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get crushed by either Timmy or the bike, and my bike is still spinning
Uh,
around. So that was crash number one. And then the second one, I was like, okay, cool, and I knew how to get through there, and so I was coming to the white flag, and I had to go under a back marker, or I had to go around a back marker. And originally I was going to go under him, and then he kind of closed the door, and I had to go, and at the last minute I had to go around him. So I went from wet pavement to dry pavement under the bridge, and then to wet pavement. And by that time, he had forced me so far wide. Sorry, I'm like capturing the camera. By that time I had gone so far wide. Now I'm like all the way out on the outside of the track, and it just lost that front and slid all the way to the bottom of turn 12 in that beautiful Georgia clay, in my nice white suit. which was orange for every day after that. But anyway, so those are the 3 times that I didn't win in the rain. Other than that, undefeated in the rain. So people called me, Rain Man, because I was just always praying for that rain to come out.
I love it, man. I love it. The undefeated Rainmaster.
Yeah, man.
That's absolutely amazing. I want to get to we have a couple comments on here. So we got if I'm not mistaken, Team Shocker, right? Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What's going on? He said, great guest. Kenny rocks. Absolutely. He does. It was an honor to meet you, Aaron, and the team down there at Daytona. So we got a good mate of mine in the house, Jake Marsh. He's all the way from the UK. Mate, what is up, dude? It's been a long time. I mean, you need to sit down and have another chat, my friend. So they're a big supporter of Pin the Gas, man. I remember when I first kind of took it over and went over there to BSB. Our relationship kind of started. We didn't actually meet there, but it was funny because as soon as I come back to the United States, I reached out to Jake and was like, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast." And yeah, his dad said that he was standing beside me out there when we was there at BSB. Man, it was just a whole magical, again, a whole
That's
nother
cool, isn't it?
experience. But yeah, so dude, they've been huge supporters, Jake, dude. The whole RD racing out there, nothing but love, man. I mean it, dude. Truly, you guys are absolutely amazing. They run my logo on their bikes and their leathers, and it's just
Nice.
man, and I do the same. So all my shirts have RD on it. I got new shirts in the mix right now, and of course, it's gonna have my boy Jake Marsh and the whole RD racing team on it too as well. So it's nothing but love, mate. Man, hope all is well, and can't wait to see. He raced in the Bemis Championship this year
Oh,
over there
nice.
in the
Yeah.
UK. So
Yeah. 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 I
honor.
used to go one of, past life. We managed Donington Park. So I would go over there for some of the BSB, even some of the ACU stuff, which is their ASRA CCS Club Race Championship. And then, but of course, we were there, World Superbike, MotoGP, stuff like that. So I got to go over there for that as part of the ops team for two-wheel ops team for Donington. And man, what a cool place that is, isn't it? Just I love the UK. First time I flew in there was super weird, right? Because like you get a rental car and all the cars are stick shift, right? But they're stick shift on the opposite side, so you're shifting everything with your left hand, but everything else is normal, and so it's just kind of weird. Over here you used to having one hand on the steering wheel and shifting and doing all those things. It's like, oh, okay, I got to do this. It's like brushing your hair with the wrong hand or something, or for those of us that barely have hair. But it's just the whole thing was weird and opposite. And but the H gearbox is in the same spot. Everything's in the same. It's just on the opposite side of the car. But anyway, such a weird experience. The first time I went over there to drive a stick shift, and I got a bigger car, thinking it would be automatic, but no.
I didn't. So fortunately for me, man, my experience was different. I didn't even rent a car. I almost did. But a good mate of mine, Daniel Parker, he's a rider mindset coach. Huge shout out to Daniel, man. Nothing but love for you. He knew I was coming out there, and he's in Kent. So I think it was like 2.5 hours away from London, but he come out there in the morning. He picked me up.
Mm.
Proper English breakfast. First time I had black pudding. I feel like, dude, if you go out there and you want to try it, by all means, you do you, right? I think everybody should try it. I tried it. It was absolutely horrible. It's the most disgusting shit I've ever eaten in my life. But anyway,
Beans and toast, and with a super super salty bacon, and oh my gosh.
the breakfast was good. I'm talking about the chocolate pudding. It was horrible, man. Like, oh my god, no, 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 no. Anyway, yeah, and then he's like, dude, so I had to take 2 trains. And then after I got off my second train, I had to get a cabbie, right? So I got in a cabbie and finally ended up in Louth at my hotel. And then the next day I woke up, went to Peter Hickman's new place.
Mhm.
He had a grand opening, went in there, met him, come back at 6 o'clock, met Malcolm Shorter. Big shout out to Malcolm. He's a photographer out there, takes a lot of pictures
Yeah.
at Cadwell Park and
Yeah.
various race clubs around, there. And yeah, we hit it off, and he's like, hey, I live right down the street. I'll just come pick you up every day. So he came pick me up
It's
every
great.
day. We went to
Love it.
BSB, and it was just like, Kenny, I thought about how alone I would feel being away from my family, going over there. even though I knew people and I was already friends with them, but basically by myself, right? Getting
Yeah.
homesick, I never felt that at all. I felt nothing but love and well
Oh, it's great.
received, and
Yeah.
especially when I opened my mouth with my little country accent, people were like gravitated towards me even more. And where are
Yeah.
you from? I'm like, I'm from Roanoke, Virginia.
Right. Well, because you can't say down south there, right? Because down south to them is France and Spain. So
Right.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but it was an absolutely amazing experience. Can't wait to go back and hang out with all my friends out there at Cadwell Park, definitely going back. Yeah, and I went to Brands Hatch too as well that weekend, so it was absolutely amazing. I want to get to a couple more of these comments real quick before
Yeah.
we continue our journey. We'll talk about Daytona next. I can't wait to talk about that whole experience with the man that made it happen for me, which is Kenny right here. So we got Christy Clay. What is up? What an honor it was to finally meet you. I actually got your business card right here. So those need any paint jobs or anything like that,
Yeah.
photography, there you go. There's a plug, Christy. Nothing but love for you. It was awesome to
Nice.
meet you and your boyfriend. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and she was also part of the starter team at Daytona. So
yeah.
she was out there for the first time. Yeah, her and Aaron Gustafson and Chris Labugan and Matt Tresky and all those guys. That's all part of that that endurance team. And yeah, and honestly, they're really part of the twins classes and lightweight classes up here. They bring a ton of energy and a ton of excitement and hospitality. And it's great to have them here in the Midwest. I was super stoked to see them at Daytona, and yeah, they've become good friends. I count on seeing them when I get to the track to kind of bring the energy. So yeah, it's cool that they're chiming in and yeah, man, I love those guys a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an honor to meet everybody. It was super exciting. I was just excited to meet you guys as you guys were to meet me. Trust me, it was absolutely amazing. And the friendships, I always say it a lot within our beautiful paddock, wherever it is around the world. It's the same beautiful circus wherever it is, ASBK, BSB. It's all the same, right? It's the people and the family you meet and the friendships. It's an honor. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm watching the comments as well, Chris. Alan Matlock chimed in, and I don't know if you know Alan or not, but
I do.
Alan is legend, and
Yes,
he's
he
based
is.
up here near us too. And if you haven't had him on your show, you got to do that. But the funny thing is, he doesn't like to talk on the microphone. And he doesn't like being in front of the camera. But man, I mean, he is keeping road racing alive in the U.S. and between just his photography and his energy and flat track as well.
Yep.
And so he went to Daytona with me for Bike Week a couple of years ago, and he rode down with me and stayed with me in the trailer at the racetrack. And one of his comments was, ask him if he's ever been to Bucky's. Dude, I had never been to Bucky's. We don't have those up here. And we stopped at a Bucky's, and I was like, oh my God, we're getting the camera out. We recorded that whole experience at Bucky's and we got like, I don't know, Alan, we got like 4 different types of beef jerkies. Like he got 2 and I got 2. So we were like cruising with all this beef jerky in the truck. And you open it up and like your eyes start to burn just because of all of the spices and everything. But oh my gosh, what a I mean, that's a guy that should be in the AMA Hall of Fame someday is Alan Matlock. He says I'm legit, he is legit.
Yeah, listen, I've known Alan. It would be an absolute honor to sit down with him on the podcast. It'd be something, even if you don't like to be on camera, me and you, Alan, we could sit down and pre-record it. So it's only me and you see each other. And then I could release it out to the world just to
Let's
get you.
make that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. I mean, some guests prefer just to be pre-recorded, which is fine. So we'll make it happen. And you're right, Alan is absolutely a legend of the sport. That's why, I also reach out to the photographies, people that do it, because they tell a beautiful story behind the lens that we may see on the track, but they tell it at a different angle and it's a different view. And it's also a different type of emotion you get from that certain picture. So yeah, all of them. Nothing but love to all the photographers, and again, the corner marshal workers make it happen, right? So, they're seeking Moto America, seeking corner marshal workers next year. So, if anybody's interested, I'm putting a plug in right now. If anybody's
There you
interested,
go.
hit me up. I know the direct people to put you directly in contact with. They can make it happen at Moto America, and if you're interested too, you can go to Texas and corner marshal at MotoGP. I don't know how many spots they have left available, but they are taking them. So, if anybody's interested, hit me up, because again, again if it wasn't without the corner marshal workers, the photographers, the ambulances, the air fences at Road Racing World. I need people to go there too and donate to the air fence fund. It's imperative that we have those. If we didn't have those, guess what? We're not showing up taking pictures. We're not having fun. We're not screaming. We're not hollering. We're not doing videos. We're not
Yeah.
doing any of that, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
A-
important.
And a lot of those races that you don't get paid, but you're getting a first row seat, and they take almost as many volunteers as they can because they want to have as many corner workers out there as possible. And most of the time, you're not doing the flags or the communication, but they got you out in the catch areas to get bikes up out of the gravel and get them back rolling again. And that's actually where I started in 1985, was as a corner worker with the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Club. And I still do a lot of safety work, control work, and stuff like that with local racetracks up here. And yeah, man, it's one of the cooler things to do for sure. And I would stress, if anybody wants to get close to the track and be part of that action, get in touch with those guys, get in touch with Simcoe, and let them hook you up and dial you in. But honestly, you go to almost any racetrack in your region and you tell them, hey, I want to be a corner worker, they're going to welcome you in. They're going to get you trained up. They're going to, have you with other experienced corner workers. They're going to have you in that program for a bit, and then they'll let you. And then when they feel like you're good enough, they'll let you go. But I know even here in the Midwest region, we need more corner workers. Road America, when we go up there for the Moto America races, they need more corner workers. So, and Autobahn, we have a lot of racetracks up here in the Midwest region. Not a lot that we race at anymore. We race at one now for the ASRA stuff, but with track days and everything else, I mean, there's a lot of action up here for folks that are doing track days, and they always need corner workers. So yeah, get in touch with your local racing organization, with your local racetrack. Tell them you want a corner work, and they'll get you dialed in for sure.
100%. And we appreciate you guys, girls, for doing it. It's nothing but love to each and every single one of you, and also the photographers and everybody in between I just named. It's you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. You are some of the brightest stars actually in the beautiful circus that goes round and round with two wheel racing, if I'm completely honest myself.
No
So
doubt. No
yeah,
doubt.
110%. And then look who we got. We got the 2024 AMA,
Hey.
Nikki Hayden Horizon Award winner, Derek Sanchez, up in the house, man, with the fire emoji. What is up, Derek? It's always an honor to see you at the tracks, my friend. Can't wait to run back into you. We need to sit back down and run it back. But anyway, Aaron says, yeah, he's such an awesome spice in the pot at all the Azure Midwest rounds. I love it, dude. And then
Oh man,
we got my buddy Israel. Have you ever met Israel?
I haven't. It sounds super familiar, but
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not
he's
100% sure. I mean,
absolutely
we all meet so many people when we're
we
walking
do.
around with that microphone, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, he says ACU covers everything aside from BSB in England, no Americans allowed.
Right. Yeah. Hey, fair
Oh my
enough.
gosh. Yeah,
And it's an
fair enough.
incredible series too. I mean,
It
that's
is.
I love British road racing. I mean, everybody there looks like a factory team. It's fantastic.
It's dude, it's my favorite. BSB is my favorite sports production racing on the planet.
It's
Alan
mega.
says, proper mega, my friend. Alan says, man, it was awesome. Yeah, I'm camera shy. Much love and respect for you guys. Listen, Alan, it's cool. We'll sit down and pre-record it, my friend. No worries. I at least would love to sit down with you face to face and just have a chat, a personal chat for sure, about journeys of motorcycles and life and all that good stuff in between, my friend. So you know how to find me. I'll reach out to you. We'll definitely, seriously, let's make this happen, Alan.
Yeah.
Um, Aaron says, kind of grew up with that Alan Matlock guy. He's awesome. Absolutely he is.
And Alan, you should post in those comments where people can find you and the different social media stuff
Plug
that
it.
that, that
Yep.
you that you are a part of and that you're plugging. And but yeah, put that in the comments, man, because everybody needs to be following Alan Matlock on all of his socials because
Yep.
he's just ridiculous.
Yep. Put it down there, Alan, and I'll plug it in and I'll put it out when I put this podcast out on
Amen.
social medias. I'll plug it all in there too as well, my friend. So yeah, man, listen, dude, let's talk about Daytona. So funny story. I just want to take it back real quick for those that don't know how this kind of life's a funny thing. That's all I'm gonna say. So at Jersey last round, Moto America, it was me and my good friends Matthew Chapin and Demario and Ryan Wolf and Matty Salam, and we're all standing around eating pizza and we have a conversation about commutating, and they all look at me and they're like, hey, you should do it, you'd be good at it, you bring the energy and all this, right? And I just laughed. It was like, maybe one day, we'll see what happens. Fast forward 2 weeks, this gentleman right here before us, Kenny Abbott, aka the Rain Man, gives me a call and was like, hey, how would you feel about coming down to Daytona and and help him do some commentating. And I was like, so I immediately hit Matthew up and Demario in a group chat and was like, life's a funny thing, guys. Guess what just happened, right? Matthew was like, yes, let's go. I'll be down there. I can't wait to see you, and all that. So Demario did too. And yeah, fast forward 2 weeks. I went down there, drove down Thursday, met up with the Rain Man, and yeah, we spent the whole weekend together. He taught me a lot. There's a lot to take in. As far as commentating goes, there's still a lot that I actually got to learn, and it's a craft, just like podcasting, right? It's a craft. You start off, you want to do the best job you can, and make people proud of you and happy that gave you the opportunity. And you see things when you sit back and you re-listen to it, you're like, yeah, I could have done better here, I could have done this, I could have done that. But when you're caught up in that moment, it's different. I'll say that, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's, man, listen, one of the best experience hands down I've ever had in my life, dude. Straight up, I say it all the time. It was just absolutely amazing, and all the love I got from everybody there, from all our friends in the sport and the paddock and everybody around, and to be part of the high, dude. We'll talk about it. Just listen, proper mega weekend, nothing but love, Kenny, and everybody that made it happen, because especially my wife too. She was a big supporter. The trip almost didn't happen, and she looked at me. She said, "Bullshit, you're going. Let's go." So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and and honestly, shout out to all the folks at Daytona International Speedway. You met Brian and Michael, who were on the ground, part of the PA AV team. Mike Trim, who's upstairs, Jessica Vallo, and Jennifer, that makes all the operations go there. I mean, there are so many working parts there to make all of this go right. I mean, they literally sit on a soundboard all day to listen to what we're doing and what's going on, to make sure that we sound good, and they're constantly tweaking stuff. Like, they'll come find you when your battery's going dead. I mean, it's the it's the most amazing place that I've ever been and worked, and everybody there is so empowering. And like I said, Mike Trim, he saw that the ASRA, they were trying to get their live stream and all that stuff going right all weekend, and they weren't having, they would get something working, and then it would go backwards, and it just, they weren't having the best of luck to push all that through. And Mike Trim and his team came up with the right cables and shifters and all these other things to make that live stream work on Sunday. And I think it worked most of the day Saturday too, I think, or part of the
yeah.
day Saturday. But Mike Trim and his whole team just tackled that whole thing and made it work and got everything going. And they have all the best equipment, and it's just so cool to roll in there. And it was funny because after the whole weekend, I started on the ground with you on pit road with the wireless microphone and the wireless headset and all that stuff. And then I would go upstairs in the World Center Racing Tower, and because I could see everything from up there and kind of run the show from up there while you were on the ground. And and I used like two different types of microphones and two different places up there, to watch everything. And then at the very end, Mike goes, "Oh, hey, by the way, if you want to use a headset and a boom mic next year instead of the handheld microphone, I could hook that up for you." And I was like, "Dude, that'd have been so good to have the rest of the weekend." Because like they had a very specific. There's two different types of microphones that you use. One is like a Shure 58, which is similar to the one that you have there, where it's multi-directional, and you use it. They use it for singing and interviews and everything, because it doesn't really matter what angle you hit it at, right? But a 57 is unidirectional. You have to be talking like right at it, right into it, and they'll use it more for music and everything else. Well, he uses a super high end unidirectional, and again, we're getting way into the weeds here, uh, but when I'm trying to watch, you know, the race around this 3.51 mile road course, right? And so I'm looking around the whole road course, and then I'm looking for you on the ground, and I'm watching the pit, two different types of timing and scoring feeds and everything else that I got going on. It would have been great just to have a boom mic and just be able to move around with it and have consistent sound. But instead, I'm trying to hold this the microphone with a heavy stand and do all this other stuff, and it would have been epic, to have something different. So that's on my list for next year, is using the headset. And I'd used one up there before, but I didn't see it, and it wasn't hooked up, and it wasn't dialed in, it wasn't set up already, so I was just trying to not be a pain in the butt for everybody. So, but anyway, but like I said, shout out to Brian and Michael and Mike Trim and Jen and Jessica and everybody for making all that happen and for inviting me back so that I can invite you, over and but that team is so good and they're so excited about and they love motorcycles. And one of the things a lot of people don't know, you talked about the air fence fund. What a lot of people don't know is that Daytona actually invested in their own air fence. So they actually own all their own air fence. They keep it all there on site. They maintain it through the day. Whereas most tracks don't invest in all of that. So they have their own. They actually upgraded it when the upgrade was available. So, shout out to their whole ops team and marketing team and everything for making all that happen. It is an epic facility.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing and beautiful. Had the honor to get up in the tower and see the view behind the glass and meet everybody there. I forget the two gentlemen that was with me pretty much all weekend with the mics. I'm bad with names, remember faces. Yeah, listen, everybody there was proper mega. It just made the whole experience even 10 times better, even down
Yeah.
to the guy that would, I'd knock on the window because I had to use the library and he would open the door for me and say, it's locked around back. I was like, dude, I got to pee real bad. Like,
Right.
so yeah,
Just unlock the door.
it's a
Yeah,
lot of door.
it's not like anybody's going in and out of there. Like what we tried to convince them to do is, hey, look, just lock the front door because no one's coming in there. Like nobody could even get to that door because all the other gates are locked, right? Like just lock that door and just come hang out and man the door right next to the Victory Lane, so we can run in and out of there, and then it makes it easier to go up and down the elevator, and that way you could watch from the top of the 500 Club too, which is just an epic view.
But yeah, it was beautiful that morning. I got to get up there. I made a mental note to try to make it up there, but again, out there, adrenaline pumping, you talking, me talking, like you said, trying to, get the grid sheets sorted out, and watching two different timing things. It's like they say men can't multitask. Bullshit. We were triple, quadruple multitasking that weekend, baby, for real.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I actually posted that photo of me up in the tower looking down over the whole speedway. It's like, I literally had, like all of these screens in front of me that I'm trying to manage all at the same time, if I had more display screens, it would have you would have seen more there, but yeah, it was fun. I'm super stoked that you were able to make it down there and make it work. I think that, our vibe in general is really good at the track, and yeah, I look forward to, and my hope is I get invited back and we can, be a team moving forward, and honestly, put it out there for anybody that is in a position to sponsor something like that, because there are so many great opportunities for us to do stuff during bike week down there at the speedway, away from the speedway. If there's anybody watching this that wants to get involved with bike week and live shows at bike week, get in touch with Simcoe, get in touch with myself. We can make that happen very, very quickly. So, it's not going to be a cheap endeavor, but if we have, a handful of companies that can just donate a little bit to make that happen, we can do a lot down there, and I think it would be really, really cool. And and we have other people that want to see that happen. They just don't know how to make it happen. Well, we know how to make it happen. We just need to bring the funding to 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 pay for it, essentially, because
Yeah.
all that stuff costs money, right? Just expense and getting down there and plugging everything in costs money. So but we can make it happen. So if you're interested in sponsoring something like that, get a hold of Simcoe, get a hold of me. We'll make that work.
Yeah, I'll put it out there too. I was actually had a conversation with my wife about that the other night. She's like, "Yeah, I want to hear more about it," and I was like, "Well, me and Kenny got to sit down and kind of come up with a game plan." But it's something that, yeah, we can absolutely make happen. And you know
It's
what?
going to look a lot like this.
Yeah, it is, and we will make it happen. That's the thing is we
Yeah.
will. See a
Live
couple
from
more of
Daytona
these.
International
Yeah,
Speedway.
dude, right? Mario, listen, thank you so much for the food, man. As always, the chef makes the most amazing food on the planet. If
Yeah.
those out there that listen to this has not had the opportunity to just go to a track just to show up, if not just to eat, you're
Chef
missing out
Eats.
on life, straight up. So, Mario says it was fun listening to your interviews, Chris. Hope to see you at more next year. You will, my friend. You'll definitely see me next year. I go to a lot of the pretty much all the East Coast races anyway, and a lot of the club track days to mingle and socialize with all my beautiful friends and this beautiful paddock. So, Alan says, rolling with Kenny at Daytona was an experience of a lifetime. All the years I have been there to witness it from his perspective was priceless. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And that's
Absolutely.
the fun thing, right? Is, everybody may have been to Daytona, but didn't they didn't get a chance to like be in the media center. And I walked you through the media center just to kind of show you what the media center was. Could you imagine that during bike week? I mean, just it's electric, and just all that going on, and all the fans, and the perspective from up in the World Center Racing Tower and top of the 500 Club is just so crazy. But that's what's fun is, being able to get some people backstage. And that's what I think would be really cool about doing shows down there is we could literally do shows live from the media center. We could do shows live from the driver's lounge, live from the World Center, Racing Tower and everything else. And there's just so many great places down there. And we even found, some restaurants that want us to do some shows after the races that day. So we could literally do some live shows from the racetrack and then leave and do shows from a local restaurant with all the cool fans interacting and people on the street and stuff like that. I think it'd be awesome. And that's honestly a throwback. The inspiration for that was a throwback to the original Chris Carter radio show back in the 80s and 90s, where Chris Carter, who was a British journalist, would come over and he would do live shows on local FM down there. And everyone would used to leave the racetrack and go to the radio show and drink and have food in the lounge. So I would love to rekindle that and fire that back up again. And I think one of the first guests we would have to have on something like that is guys like Al Ludington, right, who were there for the original Chris Carter radio show.
Yeah, it'd be dude, Al Arlington, again, another legend of the sport's been around for a long time. Used to work with Nikki Hayden back at man, so many legends back in the day.
And
But yeah,
and five-time winner Miguel de Hamel.
I know, right? So, but yeah, dude, Kenny, bring it back to your point, dude. That would be awesome. We'd also, with the live show, we'd have some riders come by at night too, because they got to eat. Stop by,
Yep.
say hi.
Yep.
Say hi to the fans, maybe do a couple autographs, some pictures, and yeah, intermingle with the
Yeah.
crowd, which is
Yeah.
bringing the racers to you live at
Yeah.
Daytona,
Yeah.
right? How cool
Give
would that
away a
be?
give away a free set of Dunlop Q5s or something.
Yeah, get in with Dunlop. Talk to yeah, dude. We can definitely make something cool like that happen for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Bring more people in, more people into the sport, introduce them to everybody. Yeah, it'd be win-win situation. Looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah.
So, man, so what's the plan for the rest of the year, Kenny, as far as announcing and in 2026?
Yeah, not too much for fall, right? I mean, we're in the northern hemisphere, so we don't have any more racing up here. The track days are all done, so what we've been doing up here with Motivid. So I work with Motivid up here. They're the primary track day organization in the Midwest with Blackhawk Farms Raceway, and we do 5 events at Road America. So we're starting to meet with Road America and Audubon Country Club and some of the other racetracks in the area, just continuing what we do there. But we are starting to have more manufacturers that want us to run clinics for them. For instance, we used to run the Ducati Revs event up here. We've done Aprilia events for them up here. They want to do some of those events. They want to run. We've done events for Ray Hall Ducati at Road America, and so we're just renewing all those agreements and looking at what else can we do for them. And one of the racetracks up here, they actually wanted us to do some clinics for their members because they have a lot of 2-wheel members as well as 4-wheel members, and they don't have a way to do rider education for their 2-wheel riders. And so they talked about having us come in and do some 2-wheel clinics for them and teach them on the racetrack so they can be safer street riders. And ultimately that's we can get into conversations about Motorcycle Safety Foundation and all kinds of other stuff, but what we believe is that using the racetrack for rider education is one of the best atmospheres, because even with Motorcycle Safety Foundation, if you're in a parking lot somewhere, that's not going to replicate what you're doing on the street, right? You can't be in a fourth gear corner and then have to come to an abrupt stop and turn and go a different direction. Well, you do that on the racetrack, right? I always tell people that it's very similar to if you're playing golf, you go to the driving range. If you play baseball, you go to the batting cage, because you get that muscle memory and you start to see what's going on. Hey, and and uh and so you can get that same muscle memory by going to the racetrack and doing these track days, right? I mean, where else can you practice accelerating, getting to, call it, fourth gear, fifth gear, and then braking, downshifting, turning, accelerating, braking, downshifting, and turning, over and over again, right? In a 15-minute session or 20-minute session, whatever it is. And then the other thing that I think is really, really important is being able to, if you look at getting into, we'll call it turn one, because most turn one scenarios are coming from a long straightaway and you're backing all the way down to, let's call it, second gear. The way I look at that or approach that from coaching street riders is that that's your emergency braking area, right? So if a truck pulls out in front of you, how do you practice compressing that emergency braking area, right? So you're going through town on fourth gear, or you're going through a back road in fourth or fifth gear, and all of a sudden somebody pulls out in front of you. Well, what muscle memory do you have to get on the binders, use front and rear brake, downshift to get through your gears and get that bike stopped, or at least slowed down enough where you can turn without hitting whatever that object is. And you can practice those things at the racetrack. And by compressing those emergency braking areas going into, turn one, turn four, turn seven, whatever the racetrack is near you. I mean, you guys have VIR pretty close by, Summit Point Raceway, the Carolina Motorsports Park. I mean, all of those racetracks have a place where you can practice that emergency braking area and being compressed. And and honestly, it's the motorcycle statistics aren't getting any better in regards to injuries and fatalities, right? So all the stats are showing us that more motorcycles are on the street, right? More motorcycles are being registered than ever before, but which also means that the injury rate and fatality rate is going up. And so my friend Diesel and I up here, we were actually brought into the local coroner's office to have a conversation about how do we tackle those things. And again, that's a whole other show, right? How do we provide education programs? How do we put laws and legislation in place to keep people from hurting themselves, right? I'm not a proponent of more laws to control people. But if the number one statistic is that sport bike riders are killing themselves because they don't have a helmet and they don't even have a license because they didn't go through the rider education, those are three major pieces that we can solve, right? We can create more rider education. We can help get people their motorcycle certifications, and we can mandate helmet laws. Again, I'm not all about mandating stuff, but at the same time, if that's going to help reduce the number of fatalities every year and or head injuries, and that's going to help increase the overall economy of the sport, then that's a conversation we should probably have. And if you don't want to wear a helmet, and you don't want to have an M-class license, then hopefully you get a ticket and you're arrested, and we'll let those people sort themselves out, right? But at the same time, it's like, I mean, we need to do something, because the statistics are just getting worse and worse, which also means that the insurance rates are getting worse and worse. And I mean, it's going to be $5,000 to insure a sport bike before you know it. It's just
Yeah.
it's out of control.
It is. I couldn't agree more, man. There's some. Well, yeah, there's some. The biggest thing too is putting it out there and keep talking about it and
Yeah,
getting people in the program and wanting people to sign up and
yeah,
do the right thing. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big advocate for that too, for sure. I just would touch back on Daytona again real quick,
I'm
man,
sorry.
because
Yeah, we got way out. Yeah,
no, you're good. That's a dude. It's a podcast, dude. We talk about aliens if you want to. I don't care, right? Like, but it's man, what a proper mega weekend again. Nothing but love to you, Kenny. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. One of the biggest things for me was obviously interviewing all my friends, which is just absolutely fantastic. It
yeah,
was
good.
it was it was a such a proper mega moment, looking into their eyes, and Chapin and everybody else and people that I just met for the first time, but
Right.
looking into their eyes, and like Elisa and Tori, and it's
It's cool, isn't
something,
it?
man. It's hard to describe and put into words, and
It's
then
super emotional.
it is, and
Yeah, I love
And
that.
uh
And it's not like, and not to degrade, CMP or New Jersey or any place else, but you just won a race at Daytona, at the World Center of Racing against some of the other best amateur riders or young professional riders that in the country. And let's be honest, I mean the grids used to be much larger, right? I mean every grid down there used to be 80 motorcycles. You had to run middleweight and lightweight, super sport classes separately, right? You had 80 bikes in lightweight super sport amateur and 80 bikes in lightweight super sport expert. I mean it used to be mega. and and it was just and so we don't have those same grids down there, but you're still beating some of the fastest people that have chosen to come down there. You're still beating a bunch of Canadians and South Americans and everyone else who's chosen to come out there. And I feel like we need to do a better job of getting that race back to an international level, and even more national riders, more regional clubs participating. But it is, and that's what I've always loved about announcing in Victory Lane and from pit lane down there, is that you get a chance to look inside the helmet and go, you just won that race, you are the national champion. And just how emotional they are. And it takes a minute, but and then mom and dad are getting emotional, and the crew chief is getting emotional. I mean, even somebody who's been there before, like a Riston Grigg, right? I mean Riston, I mean he won a race down there last year, and he's used to winning, right? He's used to being in that environment, he's used to doing those things on the cow Wasaki, and his dad is used to those things. But seeing them both together in Victory Lane last year when he won that race, it because he knew that it was the start of something much bigger, right? And just what that moment meant to them as father and son. And like you said, with some of the people that you interviewed there, and their dad and their family all being there, it's just so emotional, and it's just such a cool thing. And I just love being a part of that. And I'm super stoked you got a chance to experience all that. It's unreal.
it was proper mega, man, and I
Yeah,
had
man.
it was funny because a lot of them come up to me and ask me for my numbers, and of course I give it to anybody, and they dude, they were sending me photos and pictures and tagging me on Facebook and all
Love
this.
it.
It was
Yeah.
again, the love that I get from everybody. I wouldn't be able to do this
Yeah.
without each and every
Yeah.
single one of you. So it's amazing.
And honestly, Chris, I think that's one of the reasons why I really want to do an after show. That's really one of the reasons why I want to do a show every night from somewhere other than the Speedway, because I want to bring those winners and those families that had those really cool connections and emotions. I want to bring them out and give them an opportunity in another platform, right? Because yes, there was the Azra live stream, but they weren't right in front of them for that. And after the fact, you kind of think through the whole thing. Is like, oh, I didn't thank my grandma who paid for all my tires, right? I want to give that proper play, have a proper place for those afterthoughts of when you, because let's be honest, in the moment, right? The race just finished, checker flag happens, we push them into the victory lane, we do a quick interview, we take some photos, we go to the next race, right? And we don't really have an opportunity, we don't have an opportunity to celebrate that moment with them, right? They go back to their garage and they celebrate the moment, but I want to be able to celebrate that moment in with them in another time, or have them have the opportunity to celebrate that moment in front of other people. And we used to do the national championship awards presentations in the Daytona Experience, and that's this massive IMAX theater, with all of the champions in the same room from that weekend, and we do all the trophies at the same time, and you really had an opportunity to feel the love of everyone else in the room, and the respect from other people that won their race, and and everyone else that was a part of it, right? And we don't really have a chance to do that. We just kind of, okay, good job, next, right? And we go to the next race and the next race and the next race. And so that's why I'm really adamant that I want to find some sponsors to put together a good program, so that we can celebrate these racers and their families and their supporters and everything, after all of the kind of after the final checkered flag, falls, we can have them in an environment where we can, revisit a bunch of that stuff. And so that's why, like, I'm really adamant. We really need to put that program together.
Oh, we will 100%. Yeah. And it's such a good idea. You're right. I didn't think of it that perspective because it's like I have so much more I want to talk to them about, and Chapin
Right.
and everybody else. It's like I got so much more to say, but I
Right.
can't. In the
But we got to
moment,
go. Right.
I
Next
gotta
race is on
go,
the
right?
grid.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
race, I gotta go
Yeah.
get these grid sheets and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I get it. So we got Matt, man, Matt Tresky, dude. Absolute honor to meet you. He says, pleasure to meet you last weekend, Chris. Having Kenny on the call during the event is the best. It's one of my favorite parts of the Azure races we have at Blackhawk Farms, and it's something I've missed whenever we travel out to a track in another region and he's not
Hmm.
on the mic. His presence on the microphone gives it all a big event feel, and Kenny makes an effort to get to know all of us, so his calls have been a personal touch. Looking forward to 2026. Let's go. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and I try really, really hard to be part of those other races in other, when the Midwest is going to other regions for races and stuff like pit race and the Ozarks and stuff like that. I mean, I try really hard to get them to go out there, and a lot of times the management will say, "Yeah, man, yep, come on out, plan on it. We agree on a price and everything else." And then we get within a week or 2 weeks and they're like, yeah, no, like we're not seeing the pre-entries, so we don't want to pay for your travel, but if you want to come out, you can announce. It's like, I can't go lose $1,000 on a weekend. I mean, I just
Right.
don't have that kind of cash flow right now. So and then, but I know, and this sounds super conceited, but I know what I bring to a regional race like that, and I do try to make it feel like it's a Daytona race of champions every time we go. And honestly, like, my demeanor doesn't change much at all. So and I do really enjoy it, and I enjoy seeing all the racers and the teams and everything that's going on. But I can't pay to go to the races. But yeah, I'm trying to get in with, and I used to do. I mean, honestly, I used to do like all the CCS races in the Mid Atlantic and Southeast regions. I used to do all the CCS, WIRA, Formula USA, WIRA Pro. I did a lot of the AMA Pro Superbike races. I was at Daytona, for a long time as well. Like, I mean, I used to do, that was just part of a rhythm. I mean, I used to be on the road, 20, 30 weeks a year, either announcing or helping Dunlop or doing something like that. And, I think 35 weeks was, for a couple of years, like I was gone 35 weekends a year, and, doing something for somebody. And I love doing it, and it's fun, but I can't do it. I can't lose money doing it either. I just don't have that much in my savings. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, it always feels good when guys like Matt and Boogie and all those guys, even uh guys like Jason Farrell and Tony Storniolo and those guys, they send me messages like, man, wish you were here. There's no announcer, or the announcer here sucks. I wish you were here. And like, I know, I mean, we know that a lot of regional announcers just aren't that great,
Yeah.
and because they just haven't honed that craft or whatever. It's I don't know. Like, it sounds conceited going, it's an art form. It's not an art form. It's just, you have to be comfortable doing it, and you have to figure out what that rhythm is. And just like doing podcasts and everything else, you have to figure out how to kind of keep your people talking, and how to make it entertaining. And I mean, because it is literally 7 in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, and if you stop talking, everyone thinks that there's like a red flag or something. So you just got to keep going, and you got to figure out how to fill time. You got to do ad reads and all this other stuff. And but yeah, I really appreciate, the guys like Alan and Boogie and Matt and all those guys that are always encouraging me um, to do what I do. And I feel like that's the way that I try to be better, because I know that there's people that are counting on me to kind of entertain them.
I love it, man. Dude, no, I love it, man. And just being that whole experience, different side of things, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what I thought, to be honest with you, Kenny, man. I just didn't know what to expect. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do me just like I normally do. Nothing's gonna change, and we'll see what happens. And again, the interviews, the experience hanging out with you, becoming better friends, of course. And man, being part of the Horizon Award ceremony and get to interview Bodie Page after he got the award, it was
That's cool,
like,
right?
dude, it was one of the yeah, I definitely got that on my resume, man. That's something that to me, it's a huge deal. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest deals we do in road racing in America is that award,
yeah.
and
And the
just
fact that
being
he's one
there.
of only two riders that won it in both flat track and road race was a really big deal. Yeah.
And yeah, to be able to do the interview, man, I just stood there and it was like it's almost like when I met one of my longtime heroes, which is Keanu Reeves, right? I'm huge fan of Keanu. Always since I was a little kid, all his movies. When I finally met him at Daytona, it was like uh time stopped. Everybody around us stopped, and it was just me and him intertwined in this motorcycle conversation. And then when I turned around and walked away, things went super fast forward again and then caught back up with me, right? And I was like, did that just really happen? Like, are you kidding me right now? Same thing when I did the interview with Bodie, man. I walked away and I was like, what just happened? Like this is absolutely insane. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the guy sitting there, I forget your name. He was recording it, so I went up to him. I remember this. I was like, bro, take down my number. You got to send me that video straight
Yeah.
up. Blah blah blah. He's like, okay, I got you, mate. I was like, let's go. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. My good buddy Paul McKee, absolute legend, says bring back great moto announcing. Facts.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Yeah, it was. Listen, that
And,
whole.
and honestly, it's a matter of everybody just calling their local sanctioning body and saying, hey, we need this, we need that. If you have a good local announcer, I mean, bless him. Bring him a nice cold Mountain Dew in the morning, and bring him a sandwich at lunch, because it's and a bag of throat lozenges, but because it is a really really hard job. Um, but if your local announcer isn't that great, then make it known to your sanctioning body that you want, new announcers, and throw out some names. So, because we're out there, it just, takes a little bit of travel money to get us there. Like I said, like for me to go from so I'm in the Chicago area, for me to go from Chicago to Pitt, like just in tolls and gas, right? Pulling a trailer, so I don't need a hotel, nothing else, just me and my truck pulling a little trailer to stay at the track. It costs $950 in just travel. That's gas and tolls, right? So I mean, if I had the time, I could do it just to get that money back. But it's $1,000, right? And sometimes the local sanctions don't want to pay that kind of money. They'll just use somebody who's local, and maybe they'll just have somebody call the races to the grid, but that's not very entertaining. So if you want local announcers to sound like a radio show, right, and you want them to and you want and you want a little bit more entertainment out of it, and you want to do post race interviews all the time and do trophy presentations and all the other stuff, then you know get us out there and we'll make that happen. But it just can't be free, unfortunately. And we
Yeah.
see all the time, we see people or run into people that complain about announcers and different series and all that kind of stuff. I mean, understand how hard it is, not just to be the announcer and to keep the show going, but to actually run the show and literally treat it like a radio show. So there's no dead air and it's entertaining and there's some data and facts that are being. It's hard. It's really really hard, especially when you don't have access to a bunch of that data, maybe, right? At regional road races, it's not like we have a data sheet on who won these championships and how many championships they won. Like there's no stat sheet for Jason Farrell or Tony Storniolo. Like you got to make that stuff up as you go, right? Luckily when you get to a series like Moto America, they have a press book and they have all the stats, and you can get the press kits from the teams and the individual racers and stuff, and so you have a little bit more data to work with. But as you saw, like just getting grid sheets sometimes is virtually impossible, you know. And you don't have grid sheets. What else do you have to use to know who's in that race? And at Daytona, we kind of had to just use the loop. So as the bikes were coming out of the paddock onto pit lane, they would cross the timing loop. And so it would have the race number and the name next to it, but I had no idea where they were out on the grid. And so you just kind of make it up as you go. And a good announcer will kind of make it seem like it's like you have all the data. And that's the hard part, right? And I think you sort of experienced that a little bit too. You're like, okay, like I have the microphone and I know all these people, but how do I work in what I know and what's happening into the structure of what we're all doing here, right? And it's hard. It's a really hard job. And so, you know, be critical, but have solutions too. And you know, we're certainly available. Chris and I are ready to go on the road. The Simcoe and Rayman show. We're ready
That's
to
it.
go.
Let's go, man. Love it, dude. Yeah, we're definitely gonna got some big things in the works. Alan says that was cool to see my favorite flat track guy, Chad Coase and Dalton, dude, was there. It was awesome. Looking forward to seeing what Buddy does in the future. Listen, Chad is the guy that I gave my number to that texted me the video. So I have his number. It was funny because I reached out to him on social media and become friends with him and Dalton. And I didn't have time to sit there and say, dude, I'm actually Simcoe from Pendergast Bob. Because not a lot of people recognize me, that they recognize my voice. And once they knew it was me, then they knew who to look for, right? Because
Yeah.
normally I'm in my pink podcast shirt or something like that people recognize me from. So I so bad wanted to tell him real quick, hey, I'm Simcoe from Pendergast. I reached out to you, blah, blah, blah. But again, you know, everything has a time and a place for everything. But it was super cool to see those two legends of flat track there. I do interview people from flat track racing. It's one of my favorite sports too, as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Matlock is Alan Matlock's heavily embedded in flat track too, and
100%.
yeah, with when I was with Formula USA, we ran a Formula USA flat track series, and it was kind of fun because they at the time it was in competition with the AMA flat track championship, and so the starters from the AMA championship didn't want to come over and do the Formula USA championship because you know, they didn't want to get fired from that one, and the announcers were kind of the same way. So there's times when I actually stepped in and was the starter. Like I got to be the starter at the Indy Mile for the flat track, Formula USA flat track. I mean, talk about crazy. That was stinking crazy. You know, like standing out on the racetrack, you know, with the checker flag and starting the races at the Indy Mile. That was nuts. But I also got a chance to go out and do the announcing at the Del Mar Mile. So I was the only announcer at the Del Mar Mile, you know, a legendary, you know, racetrack and a facility like legit, you know, like a block off the beach out there in San Diego. It was just one of the most beautiful horse tracks in the country that they just happen to be doing, you know, flat track racing at. And so, yeah, just, you know, this stupid little microphone has put me in just some really cool places and just some great memories and you know, places like that. And I don't know, like at this point I just want to keep it going. You know, there's just such great opportunities out there for us, and I just want to keep it going. But you know, it just takes, you know, people asking the right questions and saying the right things to the right people. You know, there was, you know, last few weeks there was a bunch of racing down south at some of the other championships, and you know, I've heard a lot of complaints about announcing down there. It's like, okay, well then, you know, tell the sanctioning bodies that you want, you know, the Rayman and Simcoe to, you know, the Rayman and Simcoe show, and we'll swoop in and we'll make that happen, and we'll, you know, and maybe we take it up a notch, and maybe we're better, and maybe we're not, but in either case, you can't keep doing same things the same way and expect different results.
That's a fact, my friend. I couldn't have said it better myself. And Alan even says, I'll say it. Kenny's up there with Pat Gonzalez and Richard Chambers and a select few others as being great announcers in my book, man. There you go, right? Yeah, I agree with that. 100%, Alan. I mean, you're on the same page, my friend. And then Paul McKee says, announcing a regional race with hundreds of racers is a huge task. Mega respect for the good ones. Pouring rain
It's
at the
tough.
JNF, catching the podcast in the tower. Thank you, Paul, my friend. Always nothing but love and respect for the legend of Paul McKee. Absolutely proper mega fast out there on the track. Well, listen, man, we're approaching that hour and 25 minutes. My wife just texted me, said her and Rossi on the way back from a birthday party. I'm cooking homemade chicken noodle soup and grilled cheese sandwiches for everybody tonight. So there's a lot of stuff I have got to go and tend to. If I'm still sitting here when my wife comes home, they'll probably see a murder act live on the podcast, but at least I'll have a bunch of people showing up to tell people what really happened.
Yeah,
No, I'm
man.
just playing. My wife ain't gonna come here and kill me. Will pop in every once in a while and be like, wrap that shit up, right? Which is its ongoing joke. It's
Yep,
hilarious.
yep, yep.
But yeah, Kenny, just down with me for a second after in this podcast, man. It's been an absolute Man, proper mega time. Again, Kenny, thank you so much for the opportunity to go to Daytona and experience a whole different side of the life, man.
Yeah, it's cool down there.
It was absolutely amazing, man. And Leach, real quick, says, "Mad props to Simcoe and Abbott, Rain Man. You guys killed it at Daytona. Thanks for all the love and support." Leach, it was
Hey,
absolutely
yeah, thanks.
mega. He was the one that rode with us in the car, wasn't it? Wasn't that
Andrew
him?
Leach. Yeah,
Yeah,
Andrew.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
what I thought. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, he was having to walk back and forth
yeah.
to the hotel and stuff. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm excited to do another podcast with you. A lot of people always want to hear about the Jordan Suzuki stuff and the Dunlop stuff because I was with Dunlop for so long and yeah, we can certainly get into all those stories and all those questions and stuff. And honestly, like those, I would almost say, make sure you sort of, get your questions written down ahead of time and, ready to throw them in the chat. And we'll just have a super active chat when it comes to the whole Michael Jordan motorsports gig and Dunlop tires and all that stuff. Cause those could be 2 hour long shows just in themselves.
Yeah, I'm really anxious, even though I know I don't want to say a lot of the story, but I was picking Kenny's brain pretty much all weekend about the whole Michael Jordan thing because it's such a unique opportunity to have a legend like that, from a different sport getting into our
Mm,
sport and then being successful at it and bringing it to the factory teams and everybody involved
yeah.
and everything that went behind it, right? So we're gonna tell the whole
Yeah.
story and
Well, we got to work with so many great writers too. Everything
right.
uh, from uh, God, I can't believe I forgot his name already. Uh, from Stewart, all the way through, um, when we brought on Jason Pridmore and Steve Rapp in year 2, and Jake Holden was his own, is his own thing, and Holden has a lot of fans too. And then to bring in Aaron Yates and work with a guy like Aaron Yates, like working with I learned so much from the riders that rode for us. Everything from Jason Pridmore had his way of being successful, and Steve Rapp was just a machine. And I learned so many different things from Jake Holden and Aaron Yates and Jeff May. And we had, I mean, those are you go through that list, like that's a AMA Hall of Fame list. And I got a chance to work with all those guys on our team, and we were representing another legend in another sport. And so there's just so much to cover between Jason Pridmore and and Aaron Yates that it just it's just yeah, there's a lot there. Montez Stewart was the first guy, and he was a Midwest guy up here. He was a fast Midwest racer, and he wanted to go racing, and Michael made it happen for him. But yeah, being able to just and I think that one of the things that everybody likes to hear when I tell the stories is just the difference between the communication between like a Jason Pridmore and their crew chief and an Aaron Yates and their crew chief. There's such different styles and how to communicate, and communicating with your crew chief as a racer is probably one of the most important things that you need to learn how to do. And there's different ways to do that, and having the right crew chief working with you to figure all that out is imperative. And the same with Jake Holden. Jake Holden had a crew chief that just knew how to work with him and get the most out of him. um, and Compton, his name was James Compton, and Compton himself is a legend, and just was so good at his job. And guys like Amar Bazaz and Carl Steyer, and I mean, it's just the ridiculous, professionals that we worked with there. They all have something to teach us from a racer perspective and a crew chief perspective and a team perspective, that those are usually the things that really become valuable to new riders and probably most of the fans on your podcast.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I can't wait to get into them, man. I actually thought of the title of I wrote it down of the name of the episode of that podcast is gonna be. I'm not gonna give it away, so you guys stay tuned. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I'm keep
Yes.
y'all on the edge of y'all seats. This is
Yes.
what I love
Good.
about doing live conversation, live podcast, man. Stuff pops in my head. I'm constantly writing notes there
Same.
real quick and
Same.
jotting stuff down. So yeah, man, Kenny, listen, this has been an dude, proper mega time as always. It's an absolute honor to have you on, and much less just like I
Same.
tell all
Same.
my friends that sit down with me, man, it's more important, man, to be friends in this lifetime than a podcast and all this other stuff
Amen.
that brings along with it, right? So
Amen.
man,
I,
thank you. I'm grateful for the experience you gave me. I'll forever be grateful. It's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Look, man, I love the community that you're building here, Simcoe, and you're introducing people from different walks of life and different regions and around the country and different, different everybody's different perspective, and the way that you're able to bring all that together with, with just this one simple kick-ass podcast, man. You're doing a great job. You should really be proud of yourself and keep your head up with all this, man. You're doing a really, really, yeah, dude, you're doing a killer job. Good job.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
means a lot, man.
Yeah, good.
If it wasn't for everybody like you and everybody, watching and commentating right now and comments and I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with anybody. So, all you guys and girls, man, I love you guys so, and it's so much. I say it all the time. It's again, without you, I wouldn't be sitting here. So again, thank you. If you had not yet, please hit all the likes and the subscribes and the ding dongs and the TikToks and all that. And also Cycle CVN network. You guys go make sure
Yeah,
you do
follow
that.
CVN, please.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. And the Rain Man too as well. You guys stay tuned. We do have some stuff in the works coming up, like the live shows we were talking about. We're really trying to make it happen. So again, if anybody, listen to this is interested in providing, just hit me up or hit Kenny up. I'm gonna put a post out on social media once we talk more about it and finalize it and that way it's more presentable. But anyway, yeah. Kenny, again, absolute honor. I love each and every single one of you guys and girls. Again, I don't know what to say. Proper mega, let's go. I can't wait to sit back down and see everybody again. And this episode will be out actually in about 30 minutes from now, everywhere, Spotify, all that good stuff. So if you
love it.
ended up, missing it halfway or catching it, you
Yeah,
can.
and I'll share it on CVN as well. And so, yeah, it'll be great.
Absolutely. Well, Kenny, man, it's been an honor. Is there anything you want to say before I end the podcast?
No, man, I got the sun coming in my office window here, it's starting to blind everything that's going on over here. I'm like trying to like dead duck into the shadows.
I
But
love
no,
it.
man, like I said, Chris, I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to jump on here. And I like I said, there's so much to do, um there's so much to do that I feel like we just need to keep doing these things. And for those that want to see more of the Rain Man Simcoe show, let's get together and make this happen. Daytona is coming, man. Daytona is coming quick. It is already, like November next week, and Daytona is first week of March. I mean, there is not much time. So if there's anybody that wants to, partner with us to do some shows down there, or you got sponsors that want to be involved in Bike Week, let us know. We will make that happen so quick, and we can pull all those strings and make it happen, and put on a great show, and bring some really, really good value to everybody. So yeah, let us know quickly.
Right.
But
Very quickly.
yeah, man. But thanks, Simcoe. Yeah, you're doing a fantastic job, man. I'm super pumped for you.
Thank you, man. And you're right. I'm absolutely proper mega proud of myself, man, for sure.
Should be.
It's
Should
it's
be. It's a lot of hard work.
It is, and I'm also on that note, proud of all my friends that go out there and race, and proud of the parents that come together and sacrifice
Yeah.
everything that it takes to make it happen, and everybody else in the paddock. That's my friends, which is pretty much everybody from team owners to mechanics to, simply the guys that do all the tire changes throughout the weekend. You guys and girls know who you are, and it's nothing
Yeah.
but love. And yeah, we will see you soon. On that note, we are out of here, people. Just stay with me for 1 second, Kenny.
You got it. You got it.
Calling all two-wheel enthusiasts, get ready to rev up your earbuds with Pin the Gas Podcast, the ultimate motorcycle racing podcast, hosted by Chris Simcoe, one of our very own excellent leaders here in Roanoke, Virginia. With expert analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive writer interviews, Pin the Gas Podcast delivers the adrenaline rush of the racetrack straight to your ears. Whether you're a diehard fan or a curious newcomer, you'll gain insights that will transform how you watch and understand motorcycle racing. On your favorite podcast app, join Simcoe as he takes you on a high-speed journey through the world of motorcycle racing. Pin the Gas Podcast.